Hey guys, just to put it out there, it's been raining cats and dogs, so if you hear like pitter-patter in the background, I massively apologize.
Wait, don't you have a show to do? Oh, that's right.
All right, I knew this was coming. Everybody give me your best shot.
Oh my god, where do I even begin?
My answer might disappoint people. Kitty, what are you talking about? Your takes have been disappointing people lately. I don't care, Catherine. Wait, that's a lie. I am an insecure little sugar bean. But they can't know that. You said it in a video, so I think they just did. Hi, I'm Kitty Monk, and I'm here to talk to you about the Cleveland show. Or more specifically, Cleveland Brown, who in the interim, since I've made this video, I've learned is actually a football team. That could explain Mandalay Bay. Okay, let's cut right to the chase, because I got a lot to talk about. The question for this video is, did Cleveland Brown, beloved Family Guy character and titular character of the Cleveland show, deserve his own spin-off? Well, you might hate me for saying this, but my answer is a resounding maybe. In a sense, I really feel like it could have worked. It's like Peridot said.
What were you thinking shutting this operation down? It could have been great!
Hold your booze, I'm still making points. Regardless, there was a lot of work they probably should have done, and a lot more elbow grease they really needed to have put in. So, let's discuss. During the Cleveland show's pilot, which oddly enough was not a backdoor Family Guy pilot, just saying, Cleveland's divorce from Loretta is finalized, and because Family Guy is super tell-don't show, looking at you, Dylan, to make matters worse, Loretta has been retconned for wanting to make it up to Cleveland for breaking his heart and ruining his home life into a cheating, lying, backstabbing thing you often use as a gardening tool, only it's not called a Jennifer. Worse yet, Cleveland loses his house and, on top of that, gains full custody of his son, Cleveland Jr.
What is he, 14 years old now?
Yep.
Man, he aged faster than Kathleen Turner.
All of this makes Cleveland start to realize that, mayhaps, Quahog isn't the place for him. Not only will his loving friends not let him chill on their couches...
Quagmire, could I stay on your gross couch?
No.
How about you, Joe? Can I stay at your house?
No.
I understand.
Which he's not doing to be a bum. I'm sure he's gonna leave right after he finds a place for him and Cleveland Jr., but he can't even take a bath without Peter being Peter.
No more! I'm tired of being kicked around by this world!
I'm sorry, Cleveland.
It's all right.
I tried to stop him.
I don't blame you, Brian. You're a dog!
At least you tried, Brian. Rather, Cleveland decides to move the two of them to California. I hear it's nice to the homeless. In order to become a minor league scout for baseball, a lifelong passion of his.
Cleveland Jr. and I are moving to California so I can pursue my lifelong dream of being a minor league scout for a professional baseball organization.
Which I actually think was an episode in the final season. On their little road trip west, Cleveland makes a pit stop in his hometown of Stool Bend, Virginia, mostly to exposit to the audience what they'll be getting later on.
Where's all your baseball trophies?
Looks like they moved the trophy case.
And makes the acquaintance of Donna Tubbs, his high school sweetheart.
There's no Robert anymore. We're divorced.
I guess there is still some hot fur around here.
During the time Donna and Cleveland broke up, Donna married a man named Robert, who eventually pulled a Stanley Spornak and left her, and who, like Loretta, was a lying, cheating adulterer. Ugh, I hate that word, adulterer. It sounds super weird. I know, right? Donna and Robert had 2 children, Roberta and Rollo, and they also have talking bears as neighbors.
Ah, a bear!
Ah, a black man! Ah, you see? It doesn't feel so good, does it? It's very reductive.
One of whom I think owns the Huffington Post or used to. I don't know how that works. Didn't she also own AOL? Stuff happens in the pilot until Donna realizes that Robert is not the ideal partner for her. Meanwhile, Cleveland realizes Stool Bend is where he was meant to be.
Donna, I don't want to go to California anymore.
But what about your dream?
You're my dream. You always have been.
It's his kind of town, and it's better than Chicago. And the two profess their love and marry, thereby establishing the Cleveland show, also known as 4 seasons of Cleveland not being present on Family Guy besides the occasional crossover, and the basis for this video. Now, once again, you might hate me for saying this, but I think the Cleveland show, on paper, wasn't such a bad idea.
Boo!
I know. Kitty, you are aware that the Cleveland show is the reason King of the Hill got cancelled. How could you? That's the show you eat food with. The episode you watch whenever you go to an airport. And the primary genre of video essays you watch the dishes to. Yes, Catherine, I know. And I know it inspired me to try chicken and dumplings and Frito pie and chicken fried steak. We're getting off track. But honestly, I do dislike whenever this point comes up. I'm a huge fan of King of the Hill, but I hate saying this. The Cleveland show has been a tiny bit scapegoated. King of the Hill was on its last leg, and I can't blame Fox for wanting to get rid of it. It already suffered massive flanderization and seasonal rot by the time season 13 rolled up. On top of that, Mike Judge was busy working on The Good Family and a bunch of other projects. Co-creator Greg Daniels already left, and Mike Judge's only noteworthy contributions at that point were related to voiceover work, kinda like Seth does nowadays with Family Guy and American Dad. And a lot of the time, it sounded like Mike Judge either was too busy to go to the studio that week, or he just didn't feel like it. So he recorded his lines over the phone or in his garage. Like, it's noticeable.
You check my spelling on my application?
Well, sure, Lucky. Here under employer, you put Costco.
Heck, the crew never expected to get 2 more seasons after Lucky's wedding suit. That was mercy. And for those of you who hate one or the other, just know that Mike Judge and Seth MacFarlane are still good friends to this day. Mr. Judge has even allowed his shows to be featured on Family Guy multiple times after the cancellation, and even returned to voice those characters. There's no hard feelings between them, so why should there be between these two fandoms? You're allowed to be a fan of one or the other, or even both, without it seeming like you're betraying your principles. Okay, with that little rant out of the way, we should dig in why or why not Cleveland deserved a spinoff, starting with his character. Now, the most important part about a spinoff is finding out which character would be easily able to survive on their own, without suckling on their parent show's teeth. Many people say that Cleveland is the wrong character to get a spin-off. Well, at the same time, I think people said that about Frasier. He was hated on Cheers. Kelsey Grammer got tons of hate mail. In a 1993 survey, Frasier only got a 1% audience score. And in another survey, only 2% of the people surveyed said that Frasier deserved a spin-off. And yet, his own show lasted just as long as the parent show, and arguably has more of a modern-day impact than Cheers. Heck, it even got a revival. I mean, the revival's not good, but come on, Cheers did not get revived. Or heck, what about Daria? It's a spin-off of Beavis and Butthead, and contrary to popular belief, that wasn't a Mike Judge show. He just signed over the rights to the character. In fact, there were such low hopes for Daria that MTV had backup plans to incorporate Beavis and Butthead as a rating stunt during season 1. And yet that show is amazing and has more of a presence in the video essay community than these two bungholes. In a way, you can even count King of the Hill in that mix, simply because that was originally supposed to be a spinoff about Tom Anderson. But what other Family Guy characters were more deserving? Who can we live without? Well, perhaps Peter's other friends. People say that Quagmire should have gotten his own show over Cleveland. Even Quagmire thinks that.
Well, they made it through the whole season. Now can I have my own show, Peter?
Quagmire, you're a rapist.
But I feel like at the time of the Cleveland show, he was the worst possible candidate. Quagmire was a one-trick pony whose only noteworthy trait was that he was a much more destructive, voraciously hungry, normally speaking Boomhauer. So kinda like Boomhauer's brother without the speech impediment. Kinda like Boomhauer, the only selling point for a Quagmire spin-off I feel would probably be his extended family, which could easily be the Family Guy version of It's Always Always Sunny, a bunch of crazy jerks who wreak havoc on the people around them. And while I think Fox would probably pick a show like that up today, that's not what they were going for at the time, or would be interested in. They wanted nuclear families, as in father, mother, kids. That was one of the reasons they would not go for South Park. Well, what about Joe? He's married, he has a daughter, and a later episode had his son come home. That's the perfect spinoff idea, and in a way, he's the safest choice. True, but from the perspective of Family Guy, he's also the most boring. We know a lot about him, and at best, you could probably do a show about his life before Quahog. On top of that, Joe was the most beloved out of Peter's friends, so he could not leave Family Guy. It would break my heart, and the writers cannot have that. Which leaves only Cleveland, and I can get the appeal. Out of Peter's friends, he gets the least amount of focus. That leaves plenty to explore in a whole show. However, I also understand people who say Cleveland was the wrong person. On Family Guy, Cleveland's entire gimmick was that he was a quiet man who bounced off of more interesting people. Remember that whole episode where his wife cheated on him and he had to be forced by Peter and Brian to get angry?
Apologize? I cheat on you and you apologize to me? Cleveland Brown, you are pathetic.
I disagree, but I respect your candor.
Kitty, no offense, but you kind of bring that up a lot. I know! I'm not doing it on purpose, trust me. Whenever I bring an episode up a lot, I don't do it on purpose. It's just that outside of that episode where Peter becomes Junior's surrogate father, it's the only time I can recall Cleveland getting his own episode. This type of character is fine for a side character, but a lot harder for a main character you get in every episode. However, is that really a bad thing? Hank Hill is similar to Cleveland, being a character whose main purpose is to bounce off of others and just react to the world. And they had a whole show to establish other character traits about him, his love of dogs, propane. Heck, a reason why Hank works is because he's primarily meant to be confronted by things that fit outside of his incredibly narrow worldview and learn a lesson. Perhaps the Cleveland show could do something similar for Cleveland, or address this. Maybe Cleveland always played second fiddle to Peter, Joe, and Quagmire, so much so that he doesn't know that much about himself. Or, once again, like Hank, they can imply it's kind of like a coping mechanism. Perhaps Cleveland has to be so calm and collective, or the universe will explode, or he has murderous anger issues, or something like that. Well, in a way, they sort of did, in a way. Now, on Seth MacFarlane shows, there's often a certain formula. The parents will always be these two archetypes. A saggy, naggy, bitter woman with a body like a Victoria's Secret model, and a destructive idiot for a father who is not that hot. I mean, except for Stan on occasion. I think the only exception to this was Francine and Stan, because they massively diverted. And while I'm not totally adverse to them doing this in spin-offs, I do dislike how much they changed up with Cleveland. The Cleveland show is often accused of being a Family Guy clone, and in a way, it's hard to argue that point. Not only are the children a moody older daughter, a fat idiot son, and a destructive toddler baby boy, but Cleveland himself essentially became a less destructive Peter, a loud, obnoxious idiot with a gut. And many episodes often had Cleveland having to hide things from Donna, or miscommunicate, kinda like on Family Guy. One episode had Donna join a woman's group to complain about her husband, and Cleveland infiltrates it as a Muslim woman named Fatima. Fatima? Why those two? And this led to a long series of unfortunate events where Cleveland, still in disguise, is sent to Fatima's country of origin, which honestly feels like it could have been a rejected Family Guy episode. Or when Cleveland apparently had a vasectomy, he refuses to reverse right when Donna wants another baby.
No, hump!
Cleveland, I'm pregnant!
No.
Yes.
Really?
Which, well, this kind of feels like that American Dad episode, just without George Stephanopoulos' man gravy. I actually kind of liked because they both end up lying to one another for like a year. Until...
My water broke.
So we're really doing this?
I guess we are.
Oh, and they go to the hospital and everything.
Oh, the pain! It's so
real!
You've had kind of a lot, especially considering there's just a couch cushion in there.
Aha! Liar!
Speaking of favorites, I don't know where else to put it, but I want to say I really do like the Comic-Con episodes, just because of how relatable they have gotten to be for me. In fact, I think the Comic-Con episode and the Propane Expo episode from King of the Hill are why I started going on the convention circuit. But let's put a pin in all of this, shall we? Mostly because I think this relates to a major problem with the Cleveland show, and why it's often accused of being a clone. Identity.
I lost something once. I lost something I couldn't live without. My identity.
With any spinoff, the most important thing it needs is an identity to set itself apart from its parent series. After all, why should I take time out of my life to watch this show rather than any Family Guy episode that Cleveland's actually in? Mom, I want to go watch Cleveland. Shut up. We have Cleveland at home. And to some degree, the Cleveland show both did and didn't do enough to set his show apart from Family Guy. Or heck, even American Dad. It just became a more vanilla version of Family Guy, with a dash of American Dad's zany, wacky humor for taste. It's not that funny, but it's also not that terrible. It's kind of like a turkey sandwich. If I had a medium place, this would probably play on repeat. Actually, speaking of, American Dad is in a lot of ways the Cleveland show done right, even if that show also gets accused of being a Family Guy clone. At the beginning, American Dad was very much like Family Guy, but made to make fun of Republicans. The pilot itself even had cutaway gags, something that's in no other episode.
Contract with IKEA to furnish a rack. Basically, the whole country is going to look like your first apartment.
I like this. It fits with our hip 20-something lifestyle.
Except for the one where Jeff gets kidnapped by Roger's people, for some reason.
I haven't had an imaginary friend since Philip and I had a falling out. Drive, Philip, drive! What's wrong with you? I said drive!
Ugh. Frickin' Philip. However, a reason that show has survived to this day, and multiple cancellations, is because it found its tone quickly, its audience quickly, and a way to set itself apart from Family Guy, while also doing similar things. Weirdly enough, while I can agree to some extent that the Cleveland show really felt like a Family Guy clone, I will not use the critique that the Cleveland show ripped off Family Guy plots. Really, my only complaint is a lot of those episodes feel like rejected Family Guy scripts. At most, I think the only time they did a quote-unquote ripoff was the Hurricane episode, where we examined why Junior was an atheist.
You should not say such things, boy visiting from down the street. Okay, he's mine, you know that.
Which even they admitted was a ripoff in the episode itself.
Atheism is a religion too, and those people are the worst. You remember Brian Griffin? Remember what an insufferable D-bag he was about it?
Of course.
I said it before, and I'll say it again, but that episode is way better than Not All Dogs Go to Heaven. Junior makes way more sense to distrust religion than Brian, who has met Jesus multiple times, and even said in If I'm Dying, I'm Lying,
There's gotta be an explanation for all this. You want an explanation? God is pissed.
Plus, it's also for a really sad reason. Even if Junior is a pretty innocent person, he's still a 14-year-old boy who's experienced a lot of heartbreak and trauma. I mean, earlier in the show, his mother died, and it's a frequent point that he's prone to bottling up how he feels. Early on, I think like episode 2 or 3, there was a whole episode where Roberta and Rollo tried their damnedest to roast him, just to get him to cry, not because they wanted to hurt his feelings, but because that kid really needed it.
Let out all the pain from your parents' divorce. I promise you'll feel better.
I love you guys. Thank you.
Did I ever tell you I like what the Cleveland show does with the siblings? You know what? I'll get to it later. And on top of that, the episode did not say that Junior was wrong for thinking that way, or that the family were idiots for being believers. They were wrong for not respecting Junior's beliefs, and Junior was wrong for talking down to his family for their beliefs. Heck, even Donna called out Junior and explained why she was a Christian.
Junior, Han Solo didn't believe in in the Force, but he didn't think Luke Skywalker was an idiot for believing in it. Life is hard, Junior. And when reason and logic run out, all you have left is faith.
However, that's not to say they did every plotline better than Family Guy. For example, let's look at their takes with trans issues. For a more in-depth look, Lily Simpson did one. But to summarize, Thanksgiving is coming up, and Donna invites her beloved childhood caregiver, Auntie Mama, over.
I'm outrageous!
Outrageous! Cleveland starts to suspect something is up with her, especially considering how his father has also started to hit on her, even though Freight Train just got back together with Cleveland's mama, Cookie. Ooh, does she own a record company? Like I said before, the problem Family Guy had with Ida wasn't so much with Ida herself, even if they could give her more to do besides simply being a mouthpiece. The problem was how all of the Griffins would make mean jokes or comments about her, like Brian vomiting for almost a minute and then likening Ida to a predator. Well, it seems like they still haven't learned their lesson because they do the vomit gag again. And not once, but multiple times. With both Cleveland and his father doing it.
Said her real name's Kevin. Been hiding the candy for 36 years.
Plus, say what you want about Family Guy and how they handle trans issues, they never used any slurs. Cleveland outright calls Auntie Mama a word that rhymes with Franny.
Now why don't you go in there and say something nice to my mom? She's had a hard day watching you feed the fish with a
Much like Ida, Auntie Mama had good intentions, trying to give Donna a Mrs. Doubtfire so that she would not be upset about her mother abandoning her.
And I wanted to give her a strong female role model, so when she was about 6, Uncle Kevin became Auntie Mama.
But near the end, they also imply that Auntie Mama is trans, so it's kind of complicated. Alright, now let's move on to what they didn't do. Now, with most spin-offs, it's a major balancing act to keep the new show separate from the old show. With Daria, I think Highland only got like one mention, and that was in the pilot.
You don't want it to be Highland all over again.
Not much chance of that happening. Unless there's uranium in the drinking water here, too.
Whereas with Frasier, excluding his ex-wife and his son, each of the main characters from Cheers got one guest appearance, excluding Rebecca. With the Cleveland show, Peter at least, not counting the other Griffins, appeared multiple times and had direct impacts on multiple episodes, obviously discounting the pilot. Maybe not as much as I remember, but Peter did appear a great many times outside of cameos. In Beer Walk, he and the guys came down to Stoolben to support Cleveland.
Really progressive thinking friends you got there, Cleveland.
Yeah, I guess they like to throw around negatively inflected labels.
In BFFs, which is like a full-on episode, Peter stops by in Stoolben without telling Cleveland, which leads to Cleveland doubting their entire friendship. Basically, if they had the chance to remind you Cleveland was from Family Guy, they would remind you. They would beat you over the head with it. Maybe they did this because they were worried that Cleveland wasn't that big of a draw on his own, so better to give him the occasional ratings trap. Which, if you were so worried, why did you give him a show to begin with? And while we're talking about characters, I feel like that's another thing we should continue talking about. I said it before that Cleveland was the character equivalent to Rubber, and normally characters like this can be fine if they have other interesting characters to bounce off of. Ash Ketchum was designed to be intentionally boring, but he had Brock, Misty, Dawn, Serena, May, a whole slew of characters, and his show lasted for over 20 years. A reason King of the Hill works is Hank's family, friends, and acquaintances all have strong personalities to contrast him. The Cleveland show did not really have that. Most of the characters from the Cleveland show are too forgettable, or they're just stereotypes with no reason to them beyond saying, "Look, I'm a stereotype!" Like Cleveland's neighbor Lester is a stereotype of a white trash redneck.
Yes, Lester. Why?
There's a couple of black guys following you. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot.
You're also black. Have a good day, then.
Which, if it makes you feel any better, by redneck viewers, sorry, I used the R word, originally he and his family were supposed to be British. Or, going back to Auntie Mama, that twist had potential, but throughout the show, Donna never realizes the truth. Imagine the writing potential. Unlike Luann Platter, she's not pregnant.
Really?
At that point, maybe she always suspected deep down, or maybe she would be shocked at first, but come around to it. Or what about Donna's mother, Dee Dee? Dee Dee was a singer who couldn't appear to be a mother, so she abandoned Donna when she was younger. The two eventually reunite later in the series in a really nice episode, which is good, but too bad according to Candy Quahog Marshmallow during Family Guy, she unalived herself. Or what about Federline, Roberta's boyfriend? I actually liked him. Too bad he's a total poser according to BMOC.
Gabriel? Professor and Professor Friedman!
There was even an episode where he stopped acting like a rapper and Rollo had to snap him out of it. However, there is one thing I will praise this show for, and that's its relationship between the family members. The siblings get along swimmingly. They all love each other. It's like Drake and Josh. Like I said, there was a whole episode where Roberta and Rollo tried to help Junior. Heck, one of the reasons Donna fell for Cleveland once again was because of how good he got along with Roberta and Rollo.
Thank you so much. You know what you proved to me? That these kids need a man in their lives. And that I need a man in my life.
Their father, Robert, wasn't the most supportive person and had no real relationship with them until the present day. Donna even had to lie to Rollo that his father was an FBI agent. Early on, there was that time when Cleveland took Roberta to the daddy-daughter dance when her own father stood her up. Ugh, and she's named after him, and he can't even remember her own name.
My children.
Do you even know what grades they're in?
The girl must be done with high school, right? And reruns in what, 6th grade?
Or when Rollo tried to get Cleveland to take him to a magic show by calling him Dad, which he claims he did not mean.
You're not my dad. I only called you that so you'd take me to the magic show.
No, you meant it.
No, I played you. You're not my dad and you never will be.
The entire episode, Brown Magic, had the two bond over a dummy routine.
Never ever call me a dummy. The word dummy is degrading. I am a manually articulated performative kinesio maquette.
Sorry, what Roger said. The problem is Cleveland takes too much credit for the success. For what it's worth, they do make up in the end, though.
But I already have a dad. I know that. But who says you can't have two?
God.
Obviously, their relationships aren't perfect, but compared to Family Guy or even American Dad to some degree, it really feels like Bob's Burgers. Roberta and Junior team up on the regular, like when they got revenge on their parents for canceling Halloween, and Rollo and Junior have a lot of really nice brotherly episodes, like when Rollo found out that Junior is really a secret agent who was sent to kill Tim the Bear, who is really a terrorist, which could maybe explain why he had to voice actors. And this is why Junior put on so much weight and acts like a neurotypical child topped up on Ritalin.
This contains a subdermic explosive capable of blowing you to smithereens, which I can detonate by this cell phone at any time.
Even though this only comes up like once. So I'm like 98% sure that like Quagmire being 61, this is a non-canon joke or just one big prank. However, praises aside, there's one thing I feel like the Cleveland show could have done more, and let's talk about race issues. Look, I had to force some rep in there. Shady has victim mentality, I have rep. Another criticism the Cleveland show gets is it has a super uncertain audience, and I feel a major way they could have rectified that would be to do more with the fact the family is African American. That was a major unturned stone. At most, they would just pay lip service to it, like an episode where Kanye West and Nicki Minaj Minaj show up, or by having rappers guest star, like T-Pain. Wait, he was in the show? Or Auntie Mama, who's obviously a parody of Medea, but they never really do anything with it, unlike, say, Medea on South Park, and during one of their worst episodes. They don't tell us stuff we don't already know, the same way Big Mouth and American Dad tried to. And I kinda get why. Apparently most, if not all, of the writers were white. Really, they never let any actual people of color in on the conversation. Not even the cast members, who could have contributed their own experiences or ideas. And he's black. Am I saying that right? They even said,
what was supposed to be the show's audience? Who did you make it for? Like some black guy who's never met another black guy?
Anything else?
What if there was an episode to address that? A reason Khan and Min are so popular with Asian fans is because, well, yeah, the show takes certain liberties with Laos culture. They also experience a lot of relatable issues related to their race. Like when Khan is talked down by Ted and Naguk for acting too white. Or when he learns his daughter got rejected because she's an overachieving upper middle class Asian. Or heck, even the fact they mention Laos. I think it's like the only show I've ever seen to mention it. It might seem crazy, but in a way, this plotline would really fit with Cleveland. Quahog is a predominantly white town. Perhaps Cleveland had to hide his racial identity, or because of where he lived, he's been so out of touch with his culture for so long, it's like he's jumping back into it. Perhaps part of why Cleveland could return to Stoolben would be to reconnect with his roots. But, as a Latina, I did really like the episode with Junior's wife, Cecilia. What? Wife? He's like 14! Where'd I lose you, Catherine? It's not a real marriage. It's like a green card thing, which I think Family Guy later ripped off with Chris. Still, I think we all know how the story ends, good or bad. In 2013, the Cleveland show was canceled, and Cleveland returned to Quahog with his family.
It'll be nice having Cleveland back across the street.
Why? I think a lot of times you only say things because they make you sound good.
With no explanation, rhyme, or reason. Just saying, I know the writers probably wanted to get the Cleveland show over with as soon as possible, but I just wish they at least got a proper finale. Like maybe Cleveland gets a job offer in Quahog, or a meteor destroys their home, or the town gets full of radioactive waste so now it's like Mad Max land, or they think Rollo is possessed or something like that, or Cleveland feels like he made something of himself, so now it's time to move back home. Really, the episode they ended on was so anticlimactic, and also kind of icky because Donna's mother marries Donna's baby daddy, and they adopt an Asian child.
Robert and...
Your mother.
So, does this mean Roberta and Rollo have an uncle and a half-brother? They do it in order to have a second chance at parenting, even if Rollo and that kid are like the same age.
Still in my formative years, role model would do me good.
And I want a chance to make up for my own failures as a mother.
Not too late, still need mothering.
At least Junior got to become a dancer, and his grandfather eventually supported his ambitions. However, while I am glad Cleveland is back in Quahog, I'm not a big fan of what they did with Cleveland's family, i.e. nothing. The only member of his family who has any direct impact on Family Guy is Donna, who even got her own spot in the opening credits. Roberta hasn't had any lines, Rollo had only 1 or 2 lines in one episode.
Sup, man?
Yeah, sup. Keep walking, you boondocks ripoff.
I think Junior only had 1 real episode, and it's the one where Peter shoots him, so he spends most of it in the hospital, and in most we might get passing mentions about certain characters. I know the writers don't like the Cleveland show, and they probably think of it as a huge mistake, but imagine the potential. Say, Roberta. She's the complete opposite of Meg. She's a popular girl who often does piggish things with her boyfriend, and now they're 10 hours away. How would they adjust? Did they break up? up? Or was it a plot point that despite being a party girl, Roberta can be smart at times, and does occasionally value her education, like when she was touring colleges with Cleveland?
I was in the 98th percentile for the PSAT.
How comes you never told me you were smart?
Because I don't want to go around telling the whole world I'm a genius.
Perhaps she could give Meg a few pointers, or she gets in good with somebody like Connie D'Amico and then takes Meg under her wing. As for Rollo, as much as they don't want to admit it, he and Stewie have a lot in common. They have terrible fathers, they're juvenile delinquents. I feel like they could find some common ground. However, if it's an issue with money, or maybe Roberta's actress couldn't or wouldn't come back, I guess that's understandable. But come on! Rollo and Cleveland used to share a voice actor, and Mike Henry, aka their voice actor and the creator of the Cleveland show, is a writer on Family Guy. Things can be done. Oh well, if you like the Cleveland show, that's fine. I'm not gonna fault you. If not, no biggie. It's just a show. I guess I'm gonna go watch the Cleveland show on Adult Swim. Catherine, get those dishes ready. Actually, Kitty, I should be the one to tell you this. It's not on there anymore. Oh, okay then. What about Comedy Central? Yeah, it's not there either. Well then, where is it? FXX at like 1 a.m. So you mean to tell me I had to stay up till 1 a.m. to watch the Cleveland show? Yes. I mean, It's Always Sunny airs at like 1 a.m. What's the BFD? Okay then. Bye.
All that crazy stuff was just a dream, right? It had to be.
Nope.